Hello, everybody, and welcome to Talk Speed Up. I am today joined by Kbot, as always, and our guest today will be Duracell and Popgun. So, yeah, hello, guys. What's going on? And which, as normal, go around brief, just hello, you know?
Welcome to the actually late night edition. This is Talk Speed Up After Dark. Because it's like some ungodly hour for you Europeans, and it's actually after dark here, at least on the East Coast. So yeah, excited for this one. Real looking forward to it because we're going to cover some topics that I have meant to make a YouTube video about for about the past 2 months and just haven't gotten around to it yet. So we're going to do it here instead because I'm lazy. But cool. Joining us today, we got Dura and Popgun. So Dura, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself a little bit?
Yo, I'm Dura, otherwise known as Duracell. You know me. I don't know. I'm a Splatoon player, Portuguese champ, a legend.
Right.
Self-proclaimed legend, that is.
Self-proclaimed.
Yeah.
That's the key word. All right. And Popgun, how you doing?
I'm doing good. You'll have to apologize, or you'll have to pardon my southern drawl. That probably makes me the slowest talking person you've ever had on a show called Talk Speed Up. But hopefully you guys can keep up with my turtle speech here. I guess the reason I'm on here is because I keep a good eye on the things that happen in the lower level community of the Splatoon. I have a podcast that I call the Popcast that focuses mainly on teams that I think are in the lower level, which is Div 4 and below. I feel like there's just a lot of stories in the lower level that don't really get told or covered by anybody, so there's a lot of teams and players appreciate that somebody's paying attention to them. So I guess that's what I'm brought in here for, unless you just want another cute face on your stream. So I'm happy to provide that as well.
That's my job. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay, Dora.
Other thing, Popgun, you're also current captain for Destiny Troops. What is exactly your role there? Do you still play or no?
Do I still? Yeah, I'm not retired. I'm not that old yet. Yeah.
Okay, Kbot, come on.
Destiny Troops is.
No, I'm just asking. I'm actually asking if you've kept up with Destiny Troops lately.
Well, Destiny Troops is a team that was formed back in 2018 between me and my good friend Carrot, who I've met on Reddit. Carrot's a friend I would consider to be a best friend, not just in the community, but in life in general. And we formed a team then. Back in those days, if you were a lower level team, your goal was to win 2 games in BNS, because that was really all you had to look forward to. But this past year, after some roster changes and finally getting some synergy, we won our first low ink in March, won Ash Cup in April. We had a really good Ludi season, and just celebrated our 2-year team anniversary earlier this month. So yeah, we're not gone yet, Kbot.
No, I know the team still exists. I was asking about your role specifically.
Yes. Kbot's trying to not get rid of the team. He's trying to get rid of you. All right, so you can't let the entire team take offense. It's just that you need to take offense because Kbot. That's what Kbot's doing here.
I haven't done an evaluation for what our team is yet, but you can't afford it, Kbot, if you're trying to buy us out. It's too much for you.
Yeah. Clearly.
All right. Well.
All right. Cool. Go ahead.
So I was going to say...
the other thing that we like to ask.
Yeah, the other thing we like to ask... I forgot who introduced this. Someone introduced it, and I always gave them a shout-out, but now I forgot them. Shockwave. Yes, I think it was Shockwave. So shout-out to Shockwave, Australian player, because he inspired this.
Hang on, wait. Time out. Before we get to that, I don't think we've properly done this on a Talk Speed episode. Shout-outs to Shy for the graphics.
I did do this at one point.
I feel like we forgot it. In the second episode, we were like, "Oh crap, we forgot to it the first time." I feel like we forgot it the second time, and then we just completely ignored it. So I can't remember if we did. Doesn't matter. Shout out to the Shy for the graphics. Yeah, cool. Okay, moving on.
I'm pretty sure I left all of Shy's credentials actually in my Twitch description. So on one of the panels on my bio or something, I put graphics done by Shy. So yeah, definitely check Shy out. Great graphics designer, great artist. But yeah, anyway, so something that Shockwave introduced me to, really nice idea, is kind of your TLDR, 5-minute Splatoon player history. So when you like joined the scene, why you joined the scene, and what your kind of gradual build up to your place is now. So like for me, you know, I'm going to do it in less than 5 minutes because everyone, like, you know, I've said it 90 times on here at some point. You know, I joined in 2015, played on a few teams, made my gradual way up, met people, played in UK champs, stopped playing the game because I'm bad, and commentated instead. You know, that would be you know, my brief thing. Except of course you guys can spend a lot more time on it.
He joined Inkopolis Underground first, by the way.
I joined Kbot's team first, by the way. Yeah, Inkopolis Underground, shoutouts. But yeah, so either of you can start first. I don't mind. Dura started last time, so you can start again, or either.
Well, I was gonna offer myself to go first, so
Go for it.
Well, I've always played the game, I guess, since almost release of the first game, and I was just having fun. I was just a kid, just playing a video game, and then I remember in 2017, the Portuguese national team, at the time it was Hexagon, they noticed me and they were like, yo, want to join? And I'm like, yo, let's go. Sure. This sounds fun. And then we ended up winning the national championship. I went to the European Championship, and that's where I kind of started playing competitively, I guess. And so, yeah, since 2018. No, 19. What am I saying? 19.
So yeah, you're kind of a big zoomer.
A zoomer. I'm a big zoomer.
You know, I'm only 1 year older than you. Yeah, I'm a big Splatoon boomer, right? I would say that I'm more Splatoon boomer than the people older than me because I started playing in 2015. So you know,
I'm such a zoomer. I heard Popgun talk about BNS, and I'm like, shit. Oh god,
you don't know what?
I never played one of those. Never.
See, I only played a couple because they were very late night tournaments. But yeah.
Anyway, Popgun, how'd you get started?
Well, I guess I kind of cheated and did mine a little bit early, but I could talk about the story of how my wife and I got a Switch to begin with. When I was in college, I kind of backed away from video games just because I don't understand how you guys do competitive Splatoon and college at the same time. That is so mind blowing to me.
Because we don't do anything else.
Fair enough. So you know, we eventually I just got a Switch, and it came with Mario Kart and Splatoon. And the main reason we got it is because I thought my wife and I would really enjoy playing Mario Kart together. And turns out we didn't at all. So we just stuck with the Splatoon, and the Splatoon was really fun. I'll tell you, the reason I got into competitive Splatoon or playing with internet people in general was Splatfest. If you remember, the old Splatfest format was you had to play with 4 players. You couldn't just grab 2 and then get 2 randos. You had to have 4 players. So people were on the Reddit the subreddit, and were always asking for +1. So that's how I found out about Discord, and eventually found out about the rest of the community from there. So shout outs to Splatfest for making me the person I am today, I guess, or for picking Leonardo over Michelangelo or whoever.
A little squid you are today.
I feel like everyone always has that like one little thing they can attribute it to at the end of the day. Like for me, it was the fact there were no Smash tournaments in my area because I wanted to play Smash competitively. There were no tournaments, and I was like, oh, what else is there? I heard about Squidboard. Splatoon's online. I can do that in my home. Yeah, I'll go for that instead. And that probably worked out a lot better than Smash would have because Smash is hard.
I think my friends.
Splatoon is easy.
No comment.
my friends had there were 4 of us total that all thought Splatoon was pretty cool. We were like, yeah, what if we like did a team and like played it? And then no one actually started paying attention when the game actually first came out. So I was the only one that was kind of like, yeah, I kind of want to play. But then I was also like, oh, but my internet here kind of stinks and I disconnect from every game that I try to load into. So I just signed online and became a tournament organizer. Easy as that, really.
And a team captain.
And a general, well, I call myself general manager, not team captain.
You nurtured UK national treasure, Ninja121. Okay.
That is true. That is true.
Can I throw out a question?
Anyway.
Sure. Kbot, what is your main, or what would your main be if you were to play the game today, do you think?
Okay, so right now, if I'm like, I play the game like once a month maybe. I kind of flex. I would say if I had to pick a role, it'd probably be support. If I have to to pick one weapon to main for a couple games in a row, it would probably be Blob.
Kbot.
All right.
You got my hopes up when you said support. You got my hopes up, and then you said Blob.
No. I don't play Blob support. I actually would play Junior or NZAP or whatever, because I don't actually play Blob all of the time. In Splatoon 1, it was the Luna Blaster. I really enjoyed playing Luna in Splat 1 when you had I think it was Splat Bomb Bubbler was the kit. That was a lot of fun.
No.
What was the kit?
that was Custom Blaster Splat Bomb Bub. No, that was Point Sensor Bubble. I feel like we're going on a tangent, but it had Splat Bomb Rush, and it had Inkmine Inksuka.
Yeah.
I definitely played the Bomb Rush one then.
Well,
anyway,
either way.
Moving on.
I'm going to move on because, I mean, that was a fun intro, but still, we do need to eventually get other places. We're going to be going on to some tournament recaps. I feel like I'm going to be useless here because the main one that you guys wanted to talk about was IPL, which I always sleep through because, I mean, I need sleep eventually in my life.
Two things. So, Popgun, I want to give you 2 minutes to talk about Low Ink. Maybe not 2 minutes, but some amount of time, because Low Ink was, we do this series once every 2 weeks, so I think it's taken place, it wasn't last weekend, but it was the weekend before, right? So what happened there for the rest of us?
Well, I literally did a podcast episode.
I know you did a podcast
on
episode.
Monday, but how do you condense it? It took me an hour and a half to do that. Okay, how do you condense that into 2 minutes? I could say just briefly, whatever you expected to happen didn't. Some of the teams that were the favorite to win the tournament didn't even make alpha bracket. I will say this, if I were to talk about Low Ink in particular, I'm surprised that it doesn't get the type of coverage that you would think a tournament its size deserves. If you think about Low Ink, for those of you who don't know, it is the biggest tournament in the entire community. That is a fact. It draws in 100+ teams on a monthly basis. Well, what would you consider to be the biggest one then?
The American Opens.
Well, but
Luti.
The American Opens are only bringing in people every other month. This is something that's grassroots fed and is bringing in us. It's just us, the ones who are running it mainly.
I'm messing with you.
But I mean, yeah, it's and keep in mind, this is banning half of the community as well. And I think I might have lost you guys because my stream just froze. So
no, we still hear you.
So we can hear you,
but you are frozen.
But
hold on.
Okay, so Popgun can't hear us. That's cool. But yeah, no. To Popgun's point, I think the folks over at Low Ink, and IPL in general, and the community that's built up around those events, has been rather big and rather large. We just lost Popgun, so the overlays are probably a little bit scuffed. Welcome to
Dura's cut in half. That's fine.
It's fine. It's fine. We'll get him back. But to his point, and I always find it important to kind of check in on them every once in a while. Obviously, if you're interested to learn more, we'll have Popgun plug the podcast at the end. You can find that on his Twitch channel. But it is kind of interesting to hear about the growth that they've had. I mean, like I said, this is the largest monthly tournament series that's happening right now. This pretty much is taking the place of SQSS. If we're going to talk about, its meaningfulness, relevance, I guess would be the right word. I don't know why I started with an M sound there, but whatever. So point is, it is still a tournament. It does happen. And maybe we'll talk a little bit more about the low-level community in a bit. I'm just going to go ahead and move us along then to the next thing. Because I know, Dura, I think you wanted to talk about this a little bit too. The Dura split in half. So moving on to Swimmers Inc. 9. I think it was 9. I don't remember. Whichever one was this past Wednesday. The grand finals was Dream versus Bocat Nation, which are two pickup squads, featuring players from an assortment of different places. But I think one of the interesting things for a lot of people was realizing the kinds of compositions that Bocat Nation specifically was running. Now, they did end up losing the set, but primarily, so the Bocat Nation roster is Bagel, Biscuit, Chara, and Ice. And what oftentimes ended up happening was it was a double Nautilus, double Junior composition, or perhaps some variation of that where it was like 2 juniors and not and a mini, or something to that effect. Or I think those were the most like extreme compositions. So kind of want to bring that up to you all and just get your guys' thoughts on it. Obviously, I think we might have covered this a little bit in an episode where we took a look at some of the Area Cup compositions previously, so about a month or month and a half ago. But it's kind of interesting to kind of revisit this, I think, in its current place. So, Dura, do you have any like comments on that? We'll send it to you first about this whole like double junior, double not idea, and what do you think it wants to do?
When I hear that, I just think like 2 juniors want to control the whole map. Like it's 2 juniors. That's so much spinning power, and you get the support from the constant bombing and the constant armors.
I mean, it's a quad bomb comp.
That's absolutely true, and that just allows the not to lie, I guess, to I'm sorry, to just do whatever because they have their map. They have the armor to kind of aggress even more than they normally do, and we all know Nautilus and how destructive it can be with that fire rate. You know, you can just kind of melt whatever comes in front of you. And yeah, and you said the other comp was double junior, mini, and not, right? Yeah. I don't know what context that me being a European, I also didn't watch, but I'm guessing like that's even more paint because of the mini, and you get the extra chip damage if you want to just use the burst bomb, and the missiles are so. It's just a really good special to like assist a push and assist your aggro player. Just kind of collapse on someone.
Yeah. I think missiles overall are very a little underrated. Like we've kind of seen them; they were much more prominent a while ago, and they've kind of fallen out of favor for some reason. I don't really know why. Like I get they're not like the strongest thing in the world; they might not give you the most satisfaction, but I feel like they're still very beneficial to push back opponents.
I would say they're still pretty highly rated, at least.
I would agree.
Yeah.
I feel like I haven't seen as many of them
I think
as I was used to seeing.
A lot of T-Tech players like playing the special that kills things.
Also true. Like that's.
I would also argue the teams that you most likely spectate the most are the ones in Tassel, and they have very like a kind of a different playstyle. Like all of them, obviously, Rift has the really inkjet and armor heavy playstyle with Alexei always in the back getting the constant picks. And the usual guys have this really slow and not really it doesn't really benefit from missile. I don't know if I want to say it like that, but it's a different kind of play style that doesn't really want the missiles as much as whatever you think wants it.
Yeah. I don't know. Popgun, how has things like low ink seen missiles lately? Has there been like I said, I feel like there's been a rise recently, like 3 months ago, everyone was playing K-Shot instead of Ten-Attack. And now we switched back, at least at the highest level, to predominantly Ten-Attack.
Well, I mean, the things you see at low ink almost is never, or the things you see be successful at low ink is almost never reflected in what you see at the higher level. Right now, 4 of the past 5 teams to win low ink are all Tetra teams. They all have one Tetra player who just goes in and dies as many times as possible, and the rest of the team knows how to play well with that player. And so, and I mean, yeah, you do see missiles. You see a lot of K shots. You see a lot of orange in-zaps in low ink. But to go back to your point about the double Nautilus thing, is this good or bad? Well, look, I actually commentated the winners finals of that they were Melee, I guess they were called, but it was Bocat Nation and Dream. And I said then, double Nautilus works here because it's Bagel and Biscuit. I mean, these are 2 of the best Nautilus players that we have in the community. So of course it's going to work for them. You can't just assume like, oh, well, it works for them, so I'm going to use Nautilus to have my other Slayer do it, and we're going to be just no. I feel
That's
like
also-
they can get away with doing something like that just because of who they are as players. I don't think that's something we're going to see replicated outside of that.
That is something massively I wanted to say. I feel like you're relying on your Nautilus players to be Biscuit and Bagel and to be able to, I'd say, carry the fragging power of your team. Because Junior, I'd say, people underrate its ability to walk forwards and shoot things. People sometimes forget your gun can shoot things. You can walk forwards and, find some fragging power. It's not great. It's worse than most weapons, but people sometimes forget it exists. But you definitely still are heavily relying on your Nautilus to do a lot of work, and you're not going to find the same value with many, many other players than you are with Biscuit and Bagel. I think having Biscuit and Bagel being a part of the team, I don't think they're playing Naught Junior because they think it's the best comp. I think they're playing Naught Junior because they have Biscuit and Bagel that they're playing with together.
Yeah. So perhaps there's some balance between what is currently good and what your players are really good at playing. And for Bocat Nation, that's probably just that composition. Yeah. Right? It's like all that these Nautiluses really need to pop off is armor and paint control. And once they have those two things, you're pretty much golden. And so if you just throw two people on Junior, and it's not to say that like Junior is the easiest weapon in the world to play or anything, especially to play extremely well. But if at the end of the day, as long as they're painting the map in this composition, if they're painting the map and getting those armors out, then there's going to be plenty of opportunities for Bagel and Biscuit both to make the plays when they matter most. And so that's probably where they're putting their eggs in the basket. And I think on the other side of that, if you can try to shut some of that down, or if you can try to expect and anticipate when those plays are coming to try to adapt to them. I mean, what was the counter exactly used there, if you remember, Popgun? Because I don't really think that like Dream brought out anything revolutionary. They were just kind of playing a very traditional composition in terms of like what we might expect from them.
They used the Squiffer.
Okay, well that's it.
And they used the baller one. Is that the new? It's not the new or
that's
the classic, whatever. But I mean, they were able to just kind of take out players before the Nautilus would get to them. That's what is Bamboo considered like a counter to Nautilus in some extent?
I was going to say,
so like a Squiffer would just be a little bit extra range.
Yeah,
I was going to say Squiffer / Bamboo seemed like some nice counters because you can put out so many like shots and put so much pressure on the Nautilus from like kind of you don't need to take any extra. I don't know how to say it. It's like you're already outranging the Nautilus, kind of. I know that doesn't always apply because you can take more passive positions as Charger, and that's nice. But what I mean is you're still outranging it either way, so you're just getting kind of more pressure out in a way. I don't know if you'd agree or disagree with that as a Charger player, Dura, because you play Charger.
I would agree with the Bamboo statement. Squiffer is kind of a hit or miss. And quite literally a hit or miss. Yeah. If you hit your shot,
the weapon works.
Yeah. But against that specific comp with Double Junior, I think Squiffer struggles so much against armor. Like it's because it doesn't have enough range, like a splatter scope, where it can hit an armor and still be safe. You're just kind of like, oh, well, I hit an armor, and that's
makes a lot of sense.
That's annoying. Squiffer is like, okay, I hit an armor, now he can actually kill me because he's kind of in range, right? And with Not, it's such a close range tie kind of situation that it just kind of
like you need to hit it when it doesn't have armor to win that.
Yeah. And if it has armor, you probably need some assistance there.
Right.
Plus, if you're running new Squiffer, that baller's not gonna explode. It's gonna get popped because you got the quad bomb from the juniors,
but they did win. They did win with that. So
yeah, they did. Not trying to say anything.
I'm just saying that I only did the winners finals. I didn't see anything that happened after that, so they might have done quad NZAP for all I know. Another thing that Dream busted out in the winners finals that I thought was cool was a Rapid Blaster Deco Pro. And that seemed to be top fragging with that as well against the Nautilus comp, but I don't know. I've never seen that being used at that high level before, but it worked out really well for them.
Sorry, yeah. No, you go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, as far as it kind of, once again, the double Nautilus comp, the reason it works is the players, but when you go to low ink, the teams that win, or at any level of Splatoon, the teams that win are the teams that maximize the players that they have, and whatever best abilities they have, they put it they put the pieces around to make them successful. If you try to okay, so I got 2 Nautilus players on my team. Well, can one of you run K-Shot or T-Tech or something like that? No, you're trying to put a square peg into a round hole. So whoever is deciding, okay, well, we got 2 Nautiluses, what maximizes them? The teams that do that across all skill levels are the ones that are most successful.
That makes perfect sense. Mm-hmm. I'm going to give us one note quickly. I will say I very rarely take from chat before I like in the middle of an episode, but this is actually really important, I think, or it like really leads to discussion. Chara said that they won when they were playing 2 times armor. They won the grand finals and they lost the reset. They won and reset lost. Wait. Winners finals we didn't have 2 times armor and we lost. Never mind. So they lost. Okay, never mind.
Knocked into losers.
Right. So they got knocked out not using 2 times armor. They came back using 2 times armor, and then it was a lot more close. So it was closer when they used double armor, but they still ended up losing the reset. I'm going to move us along quickly, though. I think to tassel stuff. So
I have comments on double armor, but let's save it for next time.
All right, let's save that for another day because I think we want to go through a quick tassel recap before we go on to the main event. We're going to go through a quick tassel recap. So I don't know. Do you want to take us off, Kbot?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much you two have been paying attention to Tassel. Obviously, Matt and I have been paying too much attention to Tassel in some cases. But honestly, I also didn't catch most of the matches last week. I was busy doing other things like being in class during one of the matches. So just kind of want to get thoughts overall about how the league is playing out, things that you guys might be noticing, things you want to call out. I think there are things that we have talked about pretty extensively on the Tassel broadcast that I feel like we don't really need to get into here. But I want to know like what kind of reactions you guys have had overall to some of the activity you've seen out of Tassel.
Popgun, you want to go?
Well, I don't really have much to say about it. I'm aware it exists, but it's something I can't really follow to the same extent that I do all the other things I do. But I keep an eye, like I'll get the newspaper out and see what the score was of the game that happened the night before to keep up with
That's
that.
Conveniently posted on the Tassel Twitter for you.
Tassel_SPL.
Yeah, exactly.
Conveniently. Tassel_SPL.
Wake up, check the phone. Oh, well, FT win one again. How about that? But I will say though, I'm happy this thing exists, and I hope that it kind of inspires other leagues like it to take off, not just at the very top, but it'd be cool to see more leagues like this across all the skill levels for sure. But
so you mean like a Ludi?
Or I just want to say,
you had to open that, didn't you?
Unless
I was going to open it at some point during this episode.
Unless they're all asleep, all I'm saying is, if you're UK as well, then you should definitely look out for a similar sort of league. But yeah.
Oh
yeah.
Rest of you weeps.
Okay, but yeah. So was there anything else, Popgun, that I interrupted, or?
That was it.
All right. So what about you, Dura, then? Because I feel like you'll have a lot more to say because you've been watching it, but also you are someone that gets to scrim these teams.
Ooh. That's true. That's true. And while I have been watching, I can admit that sometimes I just have it in the background because I'm busy with school and I'm tired and the regular 18, 17-year-old thing. Yeah, the regular excuses. But yeah, it's a really fun league, and it's so much fun to just see this game and keep up with these teams that, if you're involved with the community, you definitely know all the players, and it's so cool. And I've definitely been keeping up. And like Matt said, I have had the opportunity to scrim some of them, and I don't know. I think while it does give me the sense that this team has this particular game style, and this team is doing this, and this team really has an advantage over this one. While I can think that, but sometimes I wonder, am I completely wrong? Because they can just go on stream and upset this other team that I thought would get beats, but it definitely gives me a different sense of what's happening.
So, as a commentator and analyst, That's one of the scariest things, right? Is like, do I have this right? Because I mean, and I feel like I've been pretty open about my uncertainty when I make statements. Um, Generally speaking, or like the way I word them, I'm like, I don't know if you want to do that. I tend not to put people in full blast. But it's one of the weirdest things, like working with a league like this on, from the inside, to put yourself out there a little bit more and be like, okay, like we're doing these predictions, right? It's like, all right, I think most likely this is going to be who wins, and this is going to be what the score is, and we're keeping track of a running total of those. Shout out to Toby, shout out to Toby, who still hasn't hit 20 points yet. But anyway, so. Maybe he has. I don't even remember off the top of my head. But in any event, like it's weird. It's a lot more like difficult to kind of think about those sorts of things, and to have that pressure put on you and have those eyes put on you, because that's something that I think a lot of us aren't quite used to, even from like the commentator side.
I love predictions because they're fun, but I hate them because I know I'm gonna get clowned. That's why I hate them. Like it's like at first I was like, oh yeah, Kbot, that sounds like a great idea. I'm gonna outplay all of you. I know all these teams so well. And then I was like, God, this is hard. This is really hard. And then I'm getting clowned left, right, and center, and I'm like, I want to go back to just not having to do this.
Can I really quickly? Just a little bit of spontaneous criticism. You know how at the start of the season you put out these forms on Google Forms, for people to put their thing. I completely forgot what I did. Can you guys make that like recheckable?
So that's a Sendo thing, not a me thing.
Yeah, no, because Sendu did that because he wanted to gather some stats at the start of the season. He was I think so Kbot's been doing his Twitter polls for his reason. I think Sendu did his for the fun of the predictions, and also because he wanted to test something with web development. So that's a very Sendu thing.
That's a very Sendu thing.
Yeah. But yeah, like there have been two different predictions things, and there's but I will say I didn't submit a form for Sendo's prediction thing. Sorry, I'm making all these predictions up on a week by week basis on the fly. So yeah.
Fake
oh well.
I wanted to ask Dura Selban. So since you me and Kbot get to put our predictions out anyway, and you've been at least watching or playing these teams. I want to ask your opinion on the first one. I think everyone's got the same response so far, apart from me, because I'm the little outlier, right? But the second one, I feel like you might have a different opinion, right? First off, Freeze or Radiance. Second one, FT Win or Starburst.
Okay, so I guess I'm kind of biased because I'm friends with basically the entirety of Freeze, but from playing both teams, I think they have very different playstyles, and it's going to be a close set. I definitely think, and we saw Freeze 5-0 Rift, and we also saw 5-1. Sorry, my bad. 5-1 Rift, and we also saw Rift 5-4 Radiance, which obviously leads people to believe that Freeze will just stomp on Radiance. But I think that assumption is kind of like not adequate at all, because it's different teams, different playstyles, and the way they face off against each other, the way they prepare to play against each other is definitely different. They definitely have different strategies, and I think I honestly couldn't tell you.
But what about FT Win and Starburst?
What about FT Win and Starburst? Okay, so I've paid more attention to the EU side of things because of time zones, obviously, and I don't know, like, does FT Win never really lets us down, but if they would lose, I would say it would be to Starburst. That's our name.
I thought you were going to give me some juice because you were like hyping up Starburst in VC the other day to me when it was streaming. So you were. Do you not remember this? You were hyping up Starburst like crazy.
Because
I was like,
they're good. Because they're good. I wasn't.
Yeah.
Okay. So right now, I think FT Win is playing better than they were earlier. I think the only reason that the only reason that FT Win loses the set is because they intentionally lose the set to get a better semifinal matchup, because that set will happen after the EU set. So they'll know who's coming first and second out of Europe. FT Win, please don't do that if you're listening. As a matter of fact, I'm probably going to DM Kyo and say, hey, please don't actually throw.
Competitive integrity.
They're not going to throw. They're not gonna.
But I think that's the only reason why they lose this time. I think they are currently just playing better, playing more solid. They did lose a couple of games to Slaughterhouse, just the same as Starburst did. So maybe it's a little bit closer than I anticipate, but I honestly still think that F2N has it in the bag. Anyway, I want to go back to Radiance versus Freeze, because Dura brought up the point about playstyles. And so if we're looking at the top 3 teams in the European division right now, the 3 teams that are still contesting for those those 2 playoff spots, I think Rift, obviously we talked about them a little bit earlier. They're the very double inkjet. They are in your face. They're going to pop the armor. They're going to go over the wall, and they're going to find you, and they're going to splat you. That's just what they do. Freeze is also a little bit more in your face all of the time, but they're less they're less inkjet dependent and more just able to run around the map as they want to. So I think they're a little bit more armor dependent. I think that's credited with Mika's insanely high KDA in the league right now, especially for a support. So like Freeze is also there. Meanwhile, Radiance is on the complete opposite side of that. Radiance is one of those teams that is playing very much more defensive. They're not running around the map. They're not getting a ton of paint. They're only striking when they realize the time is perfect. And sometimes it backfires. I think the one most notable time that it backfires is in Game 9, TC Schellendorf Institute versus Rift at the end of that game. That's the one point in time where like their plan kind of fell apart. But otherwise, like if you look at some of the rest of their games, the match last week versus Usual Guys, in previous matches as well, they're very much playing conservative, especially on the defensive side when they know that they don't need to be aggressive. They're playing defensive, they're holding their positions, and then when the opposing team wastes all of their resources, they just collapse around them beautifully. And it's really fun to watch. And I think a lot of people aren't giving Radiance the credit that they deserve because of the fact that they're not playing as flashy, right? And I think that's something else that I think we'll save for another day in terms of that flashy factor, because I also think that supports are probably the most valuable position, at least in terms of Tassel right now. Like, say what you want about support is literally just armor bot, but actually the ability to charge up the armor, the ability to paint on the map when appropriate, and the ability to set your team up for success in those ways is absolutely critical, as well as playing around the objective.
I mean,
I 100% agree with that.
I would say that support, like, to me, feels like the easiest role because I play it, but then I watch some people play support, and I'm like, nah, it can't be the easiest role if you're playing like that. I mean, what is going on there? What are those armor timings? You've clearly never touched this role. Like, you can tell when someone is not a support player and they're flexing to junior, and when they're a support player. With some of the ways some people play. But I would say one thing about Radiance is that links into kind of that timing thing that can be a downfall. I was just having a conversation with someone about this with someone earlier that I will not say, but they rely a lot on Ray. They rely a lot on the Hypnos Ray, and Hypnos is very good at using Ray, and Ray's a very strong special. But the problem is if teams end up matching the Ray, counterplaying the Ray, it can hurt them. And I think that's something we can definitely end up seeing when people start to learn to adapt to that sort of very, very heavy dependence dial on that special. And again, it can be very annoying to play against. It can be really effective. But as soon as people start working it out, it can be much, much harder to, for Radiance to do anything.
Use missiles.
Oh my. All right. Did anyone have anything on Tassel? Popgun, you've been kind of quiet, but I feel like it's been hard for you because you've not been as caught up with Tassel. So did you have anything you wanted to add?
I saw in the notes that you guys were excited that Slaughterhouse took some games off of some teams this time around. I was curious to think, what do you think Slaughterhouse feels? Do you feel like they're excited that they're taking games off, or are they like, okay, at what point are we going to start taking matches off of these teams? Because we see a lot of that at the lower level too. There's teams that are like flirting with stop being the bridesmaid and becoming the actual bride. But like, how close is Slaughterhouse to actually becoming a bride here?
Slaughterhouse is always this close to winning important matches, to winning important games, and they just can't quite ever seems to put it back.
But it's become so much closer.
And I don't think that's because they're bad.
Kbot
I
internet?
don't necessarily think so.
Kbot, you're dying
Hello?
right here. You're dying right
Maybe
here.
my internet's going up.
Wait.
Okay.
Wait, no, you're good. You're good.
You're
good.
back. You're back.
It's the
fine.
holidays
Maybe
for
I'm
our
back.
internet here as well in North America.
Yeah, right.
unfortunately, so.
We're gonna have to deal with this for about the next like 3 episodes. It's gonna be great.
Uh.
Anyway, so like I'm thinking 3 months ago they lost ever so slightly in a game 5 versus Sayonara, and that knocked them out of in like tie for 5th. So like and that was insanely close. That came down to like a last couple second push. Slaughterhouse has always been right there in terms of making these sets happen, but they just have never really been able to do it. And like I don't think there's a real reason why. I think like I hope that they feel confident in their own play. Like I really do, because I think that a lot of the stuff they're showing is very promising. But when it comes to playing the long game against some of these teams, they just can't quite seem to pull it out at the end.
I like.
I would agree. Oh, sorry, Matt.
No, I was going to say, I like your point, but the one thing I will bring up is I will say that a game 8 loss against FD Win and a game 9 loss against Starburst that did even include an unfortunate DC. You know, if you take every DC, like non-DC game, that was a 4-4, right? So having those sort of close sets, you've got to say that is definitely at least better as the last couple of months. I will still, you still got to say they haven't closed out the sets yet, but there is still definitely a clear, stronger team than there was a bit ago. I will say that.
Yeah.
You know, obviously they weren't able to find the tassel win that they needed, especially with teams dropping out. But I would say, looking to the future outside of tassel, Slaughterhouse have a lot to be looking forward to.
Definitely.
Or maybe in a second tassel season, who knows?
I mean, third.
Or a third tassel
technically,
season.
Yeah.
Third.
Did you guys have anything else you want to say on tassel before I move us along?
I think we pretty much covered it.
Yeah.
Follow tassel_SBL on Twitter. Follow the YouTube. Subscribe to the YouTube. Go to everything. Watch all the Twitch channels. Watch all the matches. Yes, Saturday and Sunday.
They are massive matches. Saturday and Sunday. The schedule is literally the pinned tweet right now for the Tassel account. So if you want more information on those, it's there. We'll shout it out later. Anyway, we're gonna get into the true Thanksgiving meal of this episode, if you will. But first, before I like really go on my kind of main point, I want to get Dura and Popgun's kind of opinion or viewpoint holistically overall. How is the community doing from your guys' perspective? So one of those, I mean, Dura obviously being very active in +2, now +1. What kind of is the activity looking over there? Like Popgun, how is the low-level culture and community currently kind of like thriving in comparison to where we had been previously, I suppose? Like if you had to rate this on like a lower activity scale or a higher activity scale, where do you kind of rate that? So Dura, I'll start with you.
Okay. So I don't know if I can tell you about +2, but +1, I got into +1, or I got vouched into +1, like right around before Tassel started. So before it was announced, all the teams were informed, and so that's when they all started like, oh, we got a reason to just kind of start grinding, and you could definitely feel like the difference from the first week I was in there, where it was like, okay, this guy wants to play, this guy wants to play, to the after that, just Alexei is pinging for to scrim this new team. That Rift became a new team, and Sendu's scrimming to scrim this other team, and all these teams are scrimming now, and that obviously makes free agents or people that aren't in these teams to be like, okay, let's ping for +3 and try to scrim them and it gets these other teams to scrim each other, and it really has I guess made +1 more active, because I heard that before it was kind of not dying, but people have other things in life and they would prioritize those. And +2, I've played a couple of +2 scrims with some friends. It seems like it's doing great. It has a lot of new members, and that obviously revitalizes. Is that a word?
Yeah. Revitalize.
Okay.
Yeah.
It revitalizes the server, I guess.
Yeah. Cool. Popgun, how do we feel about the whatever kind of level you want to consider yourself?
Well, if I were to speak for the Splatoon community as a whole, this is on a scale of 1 to 10. We're at about a 20 right now in terms of how good things are. You guys, a couple of teams disband at the top, and everyone thinks, well, this is it. We're done. We can't survive without Sayonara or Supernova. It's over at this point. If you look at it, if you think about it, those two teams make up like what 0.01% of the entire community. If you just looked at the lower level community, which is the biggest portion of this community as a whole, we've had lower level tournaments in the past 7 weekends in a row. One weekend we had one on a Saturday and a Sunday. We have a tournament this upcoming weekend. We have one the following weekend, and then Low Ink's going to come back. So like this is the golden age for the lower level community. All these teams that are going to come up and eventually replace these top end teams that are going to be transitioning out of Splatoon or into college or whatever they do in their lives, or Ninjala, I guess. But I mean, when people say the community's dying, it's like, well, that's a sign that you don't pay attention to the community, because it's anything but dying. It's stronger. There's more active players top to bottom than there's ever been. I know the top of the pyramid gets the most attention, of course, but all the attention is coming from the bottom. The people at the bottom are the ones giving the attention to the top, and that's where the community really thrives. And yeah, it's stronger than it's ever been.
So 1, really good to hear. 2, I added in the little note here to the schedule of, is North America dead? No, it's not dead, guys. 2 teams died. So what? Literally, Bocut Nation is going to be a more consistent team. Dream is probably going to pick up 1 or 2 of those members, and they're going to play in as pickup squads for the next couple of tournaments. Maybe they'll eventually form up a team, but like, NA's not dead. I don't know where this notion that NA is dead came from. Honestly, you could put Sonder in Tassel, and they would probably still compete, arguably to the level that Slaughterhouse is competing right now if they were actually grinding. Like, I don't think you all need to worry about whether or not NA at the highest level is dead, because that's just, no, sorry, it isn't. All right, it's not.
Sorry, yeah, no.
It's not dead. Sad to see Sayonara go. Sad to see Supernova go. These are teams that have been playing together for a long time that showed so much promise over such a long period of time. But I mean, at the end of the day, this isn't like the end of the road for everybody, right? Something new is going to come out of this. Someone else is going to rise up. You're going to start needing to pay more attention, maybe to a Sonder, maybe to a Slaughterhouse. Teams like these who are now going to be at the forefront of the North American scene.
The thing is, too, normally, you know, I'm supposed to be EU biased, but there is so much excitement for me coming from NA right now just because of how many good free agents are on the market and what we're going to see from it. I'm thinking of players that not even, like, you know, from quite a while ago. It's been a while since Q has been a free agent. I'm not sure if she's looking to get back into playing, but Q is a player for me that doesn't get enough praise for how good she is at the game. I would love to see her compete on a team with some of these other really strong free agents. You know, Zero, another insane free agent because of the Supernova disband. Bagel, a really strong free agent because of the Sayonara disband. I'm not saying those 3 need to play on a team together. Again, if you take some of these players like Chara, I'd say Chara's always been kind of up there, but recently, in my opinion, is where his game has been really, really stepped up. I really like how Chara's been playing recently, especially with Popgun Nation. He's looked really strong. If you take some of these players, you could make some really, like a really, really strong team out of some of these players. And I think that doesn't lead me to think NA's dead. That excites me for the future of NA. You know, the coming months of what we might see from some of these teams. I'm really hyped to see what we see.
It's kind of like that of the old gives space to the birth of the new, right? It's kind of a renaissance of the NA scene, and it's really exciting, in my opinion.
Okay.
Well, Kbot mentioned Sonder as like a new team that can come up. Let me throw out a few more. Arctic Moon's been playing really strong in some of these IPL tournaments. Temptation is a new team that beat Sonder on Wednesday.
I was going to say that. They took the win.
Yeah, so I think they need a little bit more time in the oven to get some synergy. So it'll be interesting to see what they're like in 2 months. But and that's why I brought up Slaughterhouse earlier, is like, okay, well, somebody else is dipping out. Where does that leave Slaughterhouse in the pecking order? So there's, yeah, people leaving just opens up the door for new players and new teams to come up. It's not like I don't care. I mean, I feel bad that we lose those two teams because they're fun to watch, but that I can't play the game anymore because they're not in existence.
My Switch got robbed because
I
just
don't
banned.
care.
So yeah. Anyway, that was kind of a side tangent, but bringing it kind of back to the core. This is a part where I'm going to go on a little bit of a rant.
I'm doing the transition. I'm doing the transition.
Do the transition.
Do you want to pick up the
That's fine.
pyramid? It's the pyramid time.
Yeah. Go ahead and bring it up, and I'll explain this in a moment, guys. But bear with me for a moment. The graphics just there. So, my TLDR argument is the highest level is playing very well. +2 levels also doing pretty all right. And then you've got all of these lower level tournaments, namely SAC coming back, Midway, Midpoint, Low Ink. You see them all listed out on your screen there. You have Checkpoint 1. Checkpoint 1, by the way, is a introductory level competitive server that has 1,000 members in it. So that server has been garnering plenty of attention from the semi-competitive and more casual communities. So there are plenty of other resources for players all across the spectrum, except for the people who are too tall to play on the little kids ride and not tall enough to play in +2. There are no resources for the players in this category. But Kbot, what about the weekly tournaments? One, those are North American only tournaments, or pretty much North American only tournaments. I mean, they're not Dura. How would you like to stay up until 4 a.m. and play in a North American league?
I would love to stay up until 4 a.m. on a Thursday. That just sounds right up my alley.
Right.
Better than med school?
You could either do that, or you can scrim people. Okay, but who do I go scrim? Why? I have no one to scrim. I have no idea who I can play against, because even in these North American weekly tournaments, I play versus 2 or 3 teams that I pretty much stomp. I play against, if I'm an Arctic Moon, right? I play against 2 or 3 teams that I pretty much stomp. I lose once against a high-level pickup. I play one team that I stomp. I play another team that I have a close match with. And then if I win that one, I get stomped by another team, and then I'm out of the tournament. So I have played actually 2 good matches in the entirety of that tournament. My argument is, where are the resources and where is the infrastructure for these teams that are in this little white gap here, right? That's why I colored it white, because there is, in my opinion, nothing there right now. So there are so many teams in this level too that you just don't think about all the time because you don't hear their names. The only reason why you heard of West Broadway Grillers is because they won a couple of low inks and they were dominant at the top of that scene for a long time. But arguably, well, not arguably, I'm sorry, Arctic Moon is better than West Broadway Grillers. You don't hear about Arctic Moon all of the time. Sure, they start winning some NA weeklies, and then you start to recognize their name a little bit more. But you don't talk about this team. You don't talk about, Temptation is a team that falls off people's radar. Healthy Diet Food Groups is a team that's been around for a little while. They've been a little bit inactive because there hasn't been a ton to play in, but they're still insanely good at the game. There is nowhere for them on this structure right now. So the point that I want to bring to everyone's attention is, where is this? And then, of course, there's Ludi over there on the side, and that's all well and good, and Ludi can come back or do whatever it wants. But at the end of the day, outside of Ludi, when Ludi isn't running, there's nothing there for these teams. And that's one of the reasons why, Ludi at the Div 1, Div 2 level is so exciting for these players and for these teams, is because they have nothing else to go participate in. So the low-level scene is doing absolutely fantastic. Don't make me take away from the low-level scene. And I don't want to take away from the low-level scene. I don't want to take away from the high-level scene either. But there is actually nothing. The only reason why +2 isn't included in this group is because at least they have one thing, right? At least they have scrims, they have resources that they can go find other teams. But for these teams in the middle, they're just stuck.
I would say, if I could actually name this zone, right, I would call it the grind zone. Because I feel before, if you go back maybe a year or so before +2 was a thing, and I was actively playing competitively, that's what it felt like. You just kind of entered tournaments that you could enter, and you just had to grind. You had to try and find scrims that were around your level that were good for you. it wasn't hard, like it wasn't easy. You'd stomp a lot of scrims, and then you'd finally manage to convince a good team to scrim you, and then you just get stomped because like it's not a good scrim for you. And then you'd enter a tournament, and it'd be like, wow, we're against a really easy team. Oh wow, now we get the opportunity to play against good players and lose. So at first I would be unsure about your rant, but hearing that, I kind of, before +2 existed, I would say I definitely existed in that zone sometime, and it's really hard. It's just a big grind, and having no resources can make it a lot less fun to try and grind through.
Yeah, I'm glad you pointed out a grind. That's a great term to define that area. If you start off at the bottom and you're climbing your way up, you can do that pretty semi easily if you just scrim regularly and you just build up synergy with your team. But yeah, when you get to that point to where you're like, okay, well now we got to start doing VOD reviews after our scrims, or now we got to start finding even tougher guys to go up against. At that point, it takes kind of a special kind of person to enjoy that, and someone who has the actual time where they can get away with doing stuff like that, which is so like when Kbot mentions an Arctic moon, for every Arctic moon, there are like 2 or 3 teams that just disband because they've hit that plateau and they were okay, for us to even ascend higher, we just don't have the time or the resources to put into going up to that next level. So yeah, grinding is a perfect term for that area for sure.
And, Dura, before I let you comment, the other funny thing, and this is not a slight to anyone in +1 or +2, but if a lower level player asks a player in +1 or +2, how do you get there? The high level player knows, you just go grind, dude. I don't know.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that's all you can say though. It's really there is no answer. That's the thing. There is no answer.
No path. There's no path. There's no way to
when I played and I was in +2 and I got asked that question, I would say, grind ranked, try and get noticed. You can't answer it.
Yeah. It's that like there's no special formula to get better or get noticed. It's well, I don't know. You just play and you hope for the best because there's obviously some luck involved that the tournament you play in gets exposure and whatever. But what I was gonna say is that I definitely relate to what Matt said earlier. And when I got into competitive, the first and only competitive team that I've been in was called Hooked, and we formed like way before +2 was a thing, like 5 or 6 months before that or something. And I don't know, we were just formed, so we weren't amazing, and we just kind of played whatever scrim came our way. And when we played someone that we felt, okay, this was a good scrim, we were taking games off them, they were taking games off of us, we're learning, we're like, okay, hey, what's your team? Is your team Polar Knight? Okay, do you want to scrim us more often? And just kind of arrange these scrim partnerships, which lately were a meme because of Sonder. But I think that's a really key point of getting better. You just kind of get these other people around your level to play with you, and chances are they will, because if they're around your level, they see the same benefits you do. And playing tournaments was easier back then because I think there were more tournaments.
Yeah, that is another thing.
So, right, there were more tournaments, and like maybe we'll come back to like the whole scrim partnership thing. But in terms of just like, I mean, for one, the number of tournaments is obviously very small. There are approximately 0 tournaments designed for European. There's paddling pool, I think you guys might get once a week. Is that even running anymore?
I could go on a whole tangent about this topic, but yeah, there's paddling pool on Wednesdays at 6, like normal European time, like France and whatever.
Yeah, Central European time. CET.
Central. Thank you.
No problem.
Yeah, but that's about it. That's about it, and that's the only tournament. And if I can say it, it doesn't get that many entries because I don't know, top level doesn't play, and so the people that want to play against that don't.
So my primary point amongst all this, and I see people in the chat that are talking about a lot of things. I saw like BNS doesn't exist or SQSS doesn't exist. I mean, honestly, those don't really solve the problem either. And even like majors that happen, and even like events with these like complicated or more so complicated bracket structures where there's like a couple of lower brackets, right? Those are all well and good, but they can only really get you so far in terms of like actually providing dedicated resources and dedicated like infrastructure for some of these teams, right? Because I don't think the largest problem for the teams in this like kind of middle zone is the fact that there are no events. I think the largest problem is that they don't know who to go play against to get better. Because and this is the point, Matt, if you want to go ahead and switch over to the tweet, this is a tweet that circulated around by a lot of different people. I think sparked a little bit of discussion this week. Talking about, so who are the teams that are not in +2 that I can find scrims against? Because these players don't know. They don't know one another, and they have no way to find one another because they get knocked out in different parts of the bracket. I obviously don't really know. You guys are the experts here. But if I had to guess, most scrim partnerships are formed because you guys ran into one another in a tournament. You played a really good or a really close set. You're like, hey, we should scrim sometime. And then you go back and DM them a while, right? Like, I feel like that's how most of these things are formed.
That's, if you're a new team, that is how you get started. You find that one team you can hang with, and you play them as often as you can. And then you build up more contacts along the way like that, for sure.
Yeah. So, like, these teams have no idea who to scrim against. They don't have any, like, reason to play. Like, +2, you mentioned is kind of, like, a little weird, or being a +1 member not in tassels being a little weird because you don't have anything to grind for. Chara mentioned there aren't any majors happening right now. And there aren't really any, like, currently actively on the horizon. But, like, otherwise, there's nothing to really play for here for these teams. They're getting counted out and they're getting thrown aside many times. I think my internet just went out again, but it's fine.
No, it's good.
Back.
You're good.
I'm good. Okay, whatever. So, but yeah, I mean, like, and this is a point that I have wanted to make, guys, for like the past 2 or 3 months. I've watched this happen for the past 2 or 3 months, and like, there hasn't been an answer for this middle thing. And again, also, people were talking about I forget all the names of the point servers. Was it midpoint, or maybe I should pull up
midpoint? Right here, you have midpoint and midway. Sorry, yeah.
Oh yeah,
midpoint.
I'll let
launch
Popgun
point.
go.
Launch point was the one that some people were talking about on the server. And here's the thing: these resources can only get you so far, and obviously there's like, you could go into like 90 different tiers here of the different things about who each little resource is designed for. I was just kind of categorizing them into groups a little bit more. But like, again, each one of these resources can only get you so far, unless you're +1, which is the highest. But like, +2 can only get you so far. A midway or a midpoint can only get you so far. A low ink can only get you so far in terms of like actually getting good. And then you have to graduate up to the next level. And then sure, there is going to be a little bit of a grind, a little bit of adjustment while you have to get into that next echelon of teams. But like, this is kind of the way it's set up, except for the part where you just have to grind the gap between midway and +2. Popgun, you had something out a bit ago.
I was going to say with the point servers or the vote-in draft servers, whatever you call them, and I don't know who these players actually are, but if you were to look at the top player at midpoint and the worst player at +2, there's a huge gap between those two players, whoever they are. I'm not calling anyone out in general, but I mean, I don't know what the answer to that is. I don't think there needs to be a high point or a +3. I feel like that's just adding one to the problem, but
please do not make a +3. I don't think +3 needs to be added to this game. I think, okay,
we got too much
honestly,
of that. Yeah.
Largest and easiest fix. SAC lifts its restriction in the upcoming season for anyone not in +2.
Yeah.
Well, that would be the midway tournament, I feel like. Because they're kind of like that, but the midway kind of does that thing where the top 8 teams get kicked out, and those are the teams that we see disband. It's like, okay, now that we deemed you're too good for this tournament, go off, have fun against all these other teams, kid.
I feel like, in my opinion, that restriction, in my opinion, shouldn't apply. I feel like, let's say they win, they get to the top 8, right, and then in the next coming months they make it to the level where they're +2 players. Then sure, okay, goodbye, bye-bye, you're gone. But I think coming 8th place in a midway tournament should not restrict you from entering the midway tournament again. Because being 8th place in a midway tournament does not mean you're going to dominate it again. Especially as other people improve around you, they might improve at faster rates. You might then have more competition. You might not even be at that level again, or you might be able to step up your game, and you might not even win again because there are other teams that could be entering. If you really want to add the restriction, you could do it for potentially first, but even I think that's a stretch. I feel like at that point you're excluding more people that are already excluded, in my opinion. Again, I don't have the eyes onto that level, so this is a very outsider's opinion, and I could be very uneducated here, and this could be a very bad take, but that is my take.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me put out this to the top 8 getting banned from like SAC and Midway. Who benefits the most here? Is it the team that finishes in 8th place in that season, or the team that finishes in 9th place? It's absolutely the team that finishes in 9th place, because they still get this be a part of it. In the this team is one spot ahead of us, but bye, you're officially too good. Yeah, that's kind of an issue.
And it could be down to the thing is, it's down to one single best of 5, best of 3 set of Splatoon. Who knows what happens? Maybe someone has a pop-off game. Maybe someone's feeling ill and doesn't do as well. Maybe one team just has the right maps into play. It doesn't even come down to being the better team. It comes down to a single best of 5, best of 3 set of Splatoon. And Splatoon is wild. Like
the point and the moral, I think, of this whole story is I think there needs to be a tournament series or tournament circuit that goes into this slot that potentially prohibits +2 players but opens it up to anyone else, because currently that does not exist. I think Midway is the closest thing that is like what there is currently, and I think SAC would be close. Obviously, I have no idea what they're planning on doing in terms of their upcoming season. Honestly, part of me thinks that SAC would look much more like Low Inc. when it comes back. I don't really know for sure. Obviously, that's just like a suspicion that I have in terms of like the way that I think things would play out. Obviously, no clue over here. I'm just speculating. But at the same time, something needs to go in this slot. I would love to fill that. But at the end of the day, I'm a college student. I've got 9 kinds of other things to do. Yeah. Sorry, guys. Someone's got to go figure this out. That isn't me.
I'll let Dura go first. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
I point afterwards.
Just, I just want to talk about that tweet and things revolving it a bit.
I'm going to go back to the tweet. Yeah.
Okay. So, I think, again, the main way to improve as a team is to get those connections with other teams your level, right? And I think having +2, like people that are not in +2, think of the server as the haven for scrims and where you get all the good scrims, where you can get better. And I could not disagree more.
It's where you play against a pickup with no coordination, doing whatever they want.
Yeah, because let me tell you, the issue with +2, I wasn't +2 since like the first or second month or whatever it existed until 2 months ago.
Yeah, you weren't in the first month. I was.
No, sorry, Matthew. But what happened there?
Who's in the server now?
Ooh, thank you, Kbot.
I'm in the server now, Matt. Come on.
But at the start of +2, it was very few people, right? And it was people from these teams, and you would actually get scrims, this team versus this team, and pickup scrims with people within these teams. So they're all around the same skill level, and they can all learn from each other, learn from their different play styles and weapon choices and such. And over time, obviously, with the voting system, if you're not familiar with it, you get suggested, and each person gives you a value like +1 or +2, -1, and -2, and then it makes a percentage out of that. If it's above 50%, you get in. If it's below, you don't. That's the gist of it, basically. And obviously, if more people get in, it implies that some people are better than others, right? So the way the people that are kind of at the bottom of the server will vote very differently from the people that are at the top of the server, if that makes sense to you. And what that does is open up the opportunity for people that are even worse, which sounds terrible to say, but I guess is the practical way to say it, that are even below the skill level of the bottom of the server, and that's kind of what happens with this, and that's why I see a lot of players in Plus 2 say, "Oh, it's not the same as it was. It really stooped down in quality. My scrims are either the good guys playing whatever versus the other guys, and no one's coordinated. No one knows how to play as a team, and that's bound to happen until people learn that okay, there's this quota to be met, but how do you define it, and how do you apply this quota, and how do you tell everyone, hey?"
And Dura, I think that's like, as we talk about everything from Plus 2, from Plus 1, to even thinking about, okay, well, if you get rid of like the top 8 get kicked out, then how do you determine which teams move on and how do you determine which teams don't move on? Especially in a world where Ludi doesn't exist. For all intents and purposes right now, it doesn't exist. Obviously, there are plans for a season 11 that are currently in the works. But like otherwise, in a world where you don't really have those kind of structures, then how do you determine who does get kicked out? How do you determine, like, judging scale in Splatoon is a much more difficult task than I think people give it credit for.
Yeah.
And obviously it's so much more of a scale. So it's like, all right, where is the line on this scale? And the line looks different for every individual player. So here's the thing. A lot of these things are problems that I'm going to state and I am not going to provide answers for. Honestly, there are some of these things that I don't really know, what the correct answer is. I know that like Plus 2 has voting every month, and a thing like SAC is going to take place over 3 months. What happens to a player that on a team that gets kicked out? Are they allowed to find another sub? Like, how does that work? I don't know. I honestly don't know. But I present these as issues to you all and ask you all to continue keeping up this discussion and continue figuring out what it is that does need change. Because like to make some of this stuff a reality, because at the end of the day, again, like the fact that this tweet exists on the screen further proves my point that there are these teams that are not in Plus 2 that are not getting any attention whatsoever, and you don't know who they are. You can't think of so many off the top of your head because you don't know who they are, because they're not making waves in terms of any other thing. I mean, here's the other thing. There's a like entirely domestic French league that takes place, and there are so many teams in there, like Odyssey. Have you heard of Odyssey in a while? No, you haven't. Of course, some of you have on this, but the general viewer right now, especially those of you that are listening to this in North American time zones, like, you're not going to know
Odyssey
who
are
some
really
of these
good.
players are. Conton, by the way, this further proves the point. Conton is a team that doesn't show up in any North American tournaments. They performed actually very well in the past Inkstorm. XLSX is an entirely French team that is currently, I think, kind of on the way out. But in any event, they're also a team that surprised a lot of people in Inkstorm because none of the North American people were paying attention to what was happening in Europe. So the point with all of this is there are still, like, the low level is absolutely popping off right now, and I am super proud of you all. But and the highest level is also doing very well for themselves right now. They've got Tassel to look forward to. I have no idea if there's plans for a third Tassel season. I have no idea if there's plans for relegation or like qualifying teams in during some manner that isn't necessarily like I choose you. I honestly don't know. But otherwise, like, there is a gap in resources and infrastructure in this middle that I think needs changed, especially during Ludi off seasons. And that is where I'm going to close all of this. Right. Thank you all for listening to my TED Talk. And I will be taking some questions at this time.
I have 2 points that I've been holding so much that I'm finally ready to release. So first off, Kbot, you said about a tournament that is everyone apart from Plus 2. I will say we had something similar to that. The Plus 2 entry tournament was fantastic. That was a fantastic, fantastic tournament in my opinion.
Oh, yeah.
Not only for the reward you get at the end, but more so just the tournament itself. I think the reward at the end, in my opinion, was the most disappointing thing because it was just kind of 4 players that weren't in the server that should have been in the server because they didn't really have much interest. So it was kind of a disappointing prize. But I think the tournament itself, having a non-Plus 2 Plus 1 tournament that was streamed and broadcasted to a big audience, was really, really fun. I loved being a part of that casting.
Circuit like that.
That's what I'm saying. And that's why I'm saying we've seen it proven to be a really fun, exciting thing. And the tournament was so exciting and really good. even with the disappointing, like, people that we all knew were going to win that should have been in the server anyway, even with their ending being disappointing and not being some crazy players getting into the server, it was still a great thing. So that shows we don't need to beg Sendu to come down from the heavens and give us another +2 entry tournament. We can just have a tournament without +2 and +1 players, and it can be really fun and exciting. Second thing, I wanted to bounce off Dura's point and say, if you are in the grind / question mark section, wait, I'm going to put it back on screen. Do not make your team's goal getting into +2 and +1.
Oh, yeah.
In my opinion, that should not be the goal of your team, getting the recognition to be in that server. That will not be the thing that gives you your boost. We've talked about how difficult it can be, but you need to go through other means to truly improve. Because doing at +2 ping scrim and then just getting either a team that does well against you and decides to start memeing, or a pickup that just plays whatever they feel like on the day without VCing, is not going to give you improvement. It's going to be finding the connections. You know, when I was trying to start a pickup a little while ago, we just tried to scrim Polar Knights as much as we could, because we know they're good players, they take scrim seriously, and they're good people. So we knew there'd always be a nice, reliable scrim. You have to find those people for yourself. Rather than making your goal, let's get into +2. Don't make that. If as an individual player, you want to play more pickups, you want to get more recognition, go for it and make that your goal as an individual. As a team, that should not be your individual. They were the two main things I wanted to bounce off of, but yeah.
Plus, I just want to add, it can get pretty destructive, I guess, because like if you set a goal, if you don't reach it, I know how hard that might be for some people, and sometimes getting into +2 can be very it can feel very unfair, because it can feel like it's so many people that don't even know you voting on your skill level, and it's just not a good feel for someone that sets that goal and doesn't reach it. So I definitely agree with Matt. It's not the goal. It definitely isn't the goal.
I was just going to say, as we look at a pyramid, which is what it is, that's a really good example. But as you climb the pyramid, when we get into the grind zone, you are naturally just going to see teams fall off no matter what. That's how a pyramid works. There's going to be less people at the top than at the bottom, which is fine. But if you think back just 2 years ago, there wasn't even a pyramid to begin with. There was no lower level. Forget the mid level. Lower level was you won one game in BNS. That's all you had. You had Low Ink, but Low Ink was like a mom and pop tournament back in the old days, and there was just a handful of teams. So it's taken a long time to build the lower level community. And once those teams start to graduate, those teams know how to find the scrims that they need to do. They have all the contacts they have, but it's going to take time to get up to that point. And yeah, the +2 tournament that you mentioned, that's a really good idea, and that's something I completely forgot about. But that was a really good thing. We need to see more stuff like that. We need to see Low Ink is a monthly Super Bowl. We need something that's like Low Ink, but just for the mid level and the mid level on down. Now it's going to take a lot of time, because Low Ink took 2 years to become the monster that it is. So this isn't going to be something that gets solved overnight. But there was no talk speed up that was pointing out this was an issue before. So the fact that we're even having this conversation is a good step forward for the mid-level area there, the grind level.
Two things. One, Dura, I liked your comment. So as a reminder, folks, +2 is another resource. It is not something that completely defines your skill level. It is a mark on this chart, of course, because I think it's a valuable asset and a valuable resource. But again, it is a resource, and that is it, right? So don't, as I said, don't take it as a goal. And at the end of the day, if you're in, no matter where you are in terms of the general population in +2, you're still probably going to want to improve. You're still going to find those things. And again, the reason why I'm not considering, like, honestly, there's a lot of things that I could say that I could have said about the mid-level thing that I could also include for +2, that there aren't very many tournaments specifically for that group of people. But I think it's less of an issue in +2 because they do already have that additional resource, and they're not completely out of the ballpark of taking games off of some of like +1 teams, +1 pickups, or things like that. So that's why I think it's personally less of an issue as opposed to this kind of mid-level grind zone group. Secondly, again, all that I think really needs to change. SAC, Midway, if you're listening to this, ease up your restriction to include anyone not in +2. Figure out a way to do that. Talk with one another, because I think one of you should stay where you are and the other one should like open up a little bit.
They kind of already share the same audience right now. You know, one could. Yeah.
Well, and honestly, I have no idea where SAC should actually fall on this graph, right? I have no clue. But all that needs to happen is one of those series moves, and we are golden, guys. That is all I'm asking for. And this is something that I've wanted to call to attention, that I didn't want to put like 10 tweets out about it. I wanted to just make a video on it. And then I got lazy. So here you go. Here it is. But please, somebody go make this happen. Like, if you want advice or whatever, feel free to hit me up. I'm down to listen. I'm down to bounce ideas. I obviously can't run things myself because I'm busy with my own projects. But if you need advice or help on that front, please let me know. I also don't think that another tournament series absolutely needs to be created. I think, like, again, one of these two probably just needs to change. And we're good. That's it. That's all that needs to happen. Like, as much as we've harped on this for the past, like, 30 minutes or so, that's really it. It's quite honestly as simple as that, I think, because again, as Matt was saying, with the +2 entry cup, like, that was a fantastic tournament. More of that would be fantastic. Not necessarily for the +2 entry, but more so for getting these teams to play against one another and getting another set of eyes on that skill level. I think that about does it, because we are quickly running out of time on that point. I don't think anyone else really has anything to add, because we pretty much beat that to a pulp.
If someone does, then bring it up now before I move on.
Yeah, I think we're fine.
All right. Sorry, okay,
cool.
All right, I was gonna say,
so everyone's favorite segment of the week.
You're lagging, but yeah. Oh no, you're good. You're good. Okay, I just want to say quickly before I went to hard memeing, I did just want to say thank you for Kbot for actually bringing up this episode, because at first when he typed out like the list of episodes he wants to do and he put community infrastructure, my first initial response was, this just sounds so boring to me. I don't want to sit down and do this. It just doesn't sound fun. I just want to sit down with top players and talk about stuff. But no, I think this was actually a really great thing to bring to light. And I think we've got a lot of good discussion out of this. So thanks for thinking of imaginative things and not just let's talk with some top players that want some things. But yeah, anyway, let's get on to the memeing. It's Matt's Player of the Week, everyone. All right.
There we go.
Matt's Player of the Week this week. Everyone's got to... put out your guesses. Who's it going to be? I'm not taking them. I'm just going to say it. Matt's Player of the Week this week is King Benji.
He just tried to care.
No.
Benji is my Player of the Week because he let me borrow his mansion when my family needed it the most. He let me go to his mansion and give it all to it. Like, he gave it all to us and use the private care facility for my sick family. Not only that, he let me use the Lambo afterwards to go back home where we needed to be safe in, you know, the troubling times. And the fact that he just gave me €1 million, like, just straight up with not having to return to him, I don't know. There's no one that I can think in the world that is just a better person than King Benji. And I heard his DMs are open even, so that's just...
It's 1 a.m. right now.
What's up, Dura?
All right, guys, that's to be Oh boy. All right.
Do you guys have any plugs? All right, let's do plugs. Let's end this off. But yeah, that's my Player of the Week.
Dura, fire away. Where can people find you?
At Duracell_DLC on Twitter. I'm sorry, guys. That just ended me. Yeah, you can follow my Twitter.
Follow him. He does some charter things sometimes. He might make a team with Robbie or some project or something. I'm gonna speak it into existence. All right, just go make a team with Robbie, please, for the love of God. All right. Popgun. Where can the people find you?
You can find me more notably at Twitch at Popgun25. If you enjoy this podcast setting without three other morons being on the stream with you, I do a solo podcast focusing just on the lower level community every Monday at 12 p.m. Eastern time. We'll be covering this upcoming Little Squid League tournament on Monday, as well as talking about Nintendo stuff, which is a hot topic on everyone's brain right now. So yeah, feel free to check that out.
Oh, yeah.
I don't even want to touch that.
Yeah, I mean, all I'm going to say is, I mean, everyone already knows it, everyone's already feeling it, but, free melee and save smash, we deserve more than the company is giving us. This is a lot of bullshit going on, I'll just put it frankly, but, that's all I'll touch it from now. But you guys already know what's going on, and if you don't, then look at the hashtags free melee and save smash, and you'll understand.
Yeah, bro.
All right. Do check out the podcast if you're interested in more of low level stuff. Also be prepared for dad jokes because that's Popgun. My shoutouts this week are the Transatlantic Splatoon League is wrapping up its final week of regulation play. It is going to be FT Win versus Starburst in a rematch of the previous North American Splatoon 2 Open. I forget the long name of it now, but you know that one, where that went to a game 7. So be sure to tune in for that, as well as the Radiance versus Freeze matchup that is taking place tomorrow on this channel, twitch.tv/ninja_, as he would say himself. That was done well. That will be at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and 9 p.m. Central European Time. Again, right here, Radiance versus Freeze. Literally, there are 3 different scenarios that could still happen depending on what happens in this match. So you're not going to want to miss it. I imagine it's going to come down to the wire. It's going to be a stylistic duel. It's going to be very interesting to see exactly who comes out on top. I expect something that's going to look much more like the Game 9 of Radiance versus Rift than anything else we've seen so far with the rest of the league. So be sure to tune in for that. That one should be good. That'll be by Ninja and myself, actually, which we haven't done a Tassel episode, or we haven't done a Tassel cast together. So that should be a lot of fun if you're looking for the full talk speed up action there. In addition, on Sunday, the cast will be done by 9 and Dr. Prodigy over on the 9-Hole Grains channel. So that'll set the stage up very well for what these teams expect to do as we move into Tassel playoffs. So keep your eye on that. Follow at Tassel_SPL for updates and everything. And we'll see you back here tomorrow.
We'll see you back here tomorrow, guys. Make sure to keep watching Talk Speed Up. Make sure to check out all of these guys. And that's going to do it. Goodbye, everybody. And thanks so much.
Hang on. Whoa.
I thought you were like suggesting me to end it. Kbot. Sorry.
Well, almost. But first, I'm going to plug our Discord. Talk Speed Up has a Discord server. You're welcome to join us. We have the logs of like our previous episodes. Honestly, it's not very active, but if you want to join us to stay even more up to date in terms of when we're doing things, join the server. I just put it in Twitch chat, and it's in the description of the YouTube video if you're watching it there. Anyway, I think that's it.
Yeah,
Matt, unless you have anything else.
I was gonna say,
I think we're good.
If you do talk to us in that server, I will respond. I have nothing else to do, so I'll be able to respond. I'll always respond if you talk that. Don't feel intimidated by Kbot and Ninja_. You'll also be able to get the preview before I tweet out of the guests because we have a little yellow roll for them, so you'll always be able to see who's going to be on the show early. I feel like we should integrate it at some point later. Maybe do some sort of Q&A on there. That could be fun, but that's for the future. That's for the future. We'll see. But yeah, that's definitely
the future after you and I are both done worrying about Tassel.
Yep, exactly. Again, thanks very much, guys. It has been a really good episode, a lot of great discussion. So thanks so much. Check out Duracell, check out Popgun and his Popcast, and check out Tassel. That's going to be all, guys. Thanks so much for watching, and goodbye.
See ya.